Welcome into the Canuck Arcade. In today's video, we are going to cover transferring ROMs from our computer over to our iconic arcade. We've got it all set up. We got RetroPie on it. Now we need to get some games over there. So there's a couple methods. We can do it using a USB dongle or thumb drive, whatever you want to call it. We can use one of those. Or we can also use our network and transfer over the network. As long as the PC that you have your ROMs on and your arcade are on the same network, it shouldn't be a problem. So we're going to start off with the USB method first, and then we will go on and I'll show you the networking methods because there's two of them, and one of them involves downloading a program. So we'll get to that at the end. All right, let's start off with this USB. So I got myself a 32 gig USB. I'm going to throw it into the computer. Just like so. Now, all you have to do here is add a new folder. We're going to call that folder RetroPie. Just like that. And then eject it. All right, so then you're going to take it and we're going to go over to the arcade and you're going to put that USB into the USBs on the front. So let me do that. Okay, now this always helps if you have a USB with an indicator light on it. It's not a really big deal though if you don't. I would say give it like a minute-ish. I've never really timed it myself. But I usually give it about a minute, and by that time it should have the amount of time that it needs to do what it needs to do. So I'm going to just pause the video for another 30 seconds or so you don't have to hear me running my mouth about random stuff that nobody cares about. All right, so I don't know, it's close to a minute, around a minute. I'm going to pull it out now and go put it back into the PC. All right, there we go. Now, let's go in and open that up. RetroPie. And as you can see now, we have a few more folders in here. So we have a BIOS, a configs, and a ROM. Pretty self-explanatory. Any BIOS files that your games will need to run, you'll put into here. Configs have config files in there. Unless you know what you're doing, I would say just stay out of there altogether. And then ROMs. So you go down to ROMs, click on it. And in here are all the files that are on your arcade. So what we want to do is just simply pick the file for the appropriate ROM. So I've got a couple N64, or no, sorry, I have some Super Nintendo ROMs here. So we're just drag and drop them over to the USB. And then once they're done transferring, we're just going to eject and we're going to walk over and throw it back into the arcade. All right, so let me switch over to the arcade and then we'll go from there. All right, so now we're going to throw the USB back into the front of the arcade. And we're going to give it a little bit. It shouldn't take too long. The files aren't overly large, but give it a couple seconds to let it do its thing. Those lights flash. Oh, my arcade went into screensaver. There we go. So after you've given it a bit, what we're going to do now is just easily hit that start button. I'm going to scroll down to where it says quit, restart emulation station, yes, and we're going to let it reboot. And if we've done everything correctly, cross our fingers, then we should have a new section on our list. And there we go. Perfect. So now if we go in, there's our two games. Excellent. So that's the first way to do it over USB. Pretty easy. Next, I would say is probably just as easy. So let me switch back over the computer and I'll show you how to do this over the network. So like I said, we got to make sure that you have your arcade and your computer on the same network or it won't know where it is and won't be able to find it. So this is the pretty much, I think, the easiest method. Just open up a window. I just used this PC. And then go up to the navigation bar and put in / RetroPie. And as you can see, I've done it before, so it already popped up. And as you can, we got the same kind of files like we did on the USB, except we have splash screens in here now. Splash screens are basically at the beginning when you reboot your arcade. It'll be a video that'll show up. I'm not going to explain all that, but if you'd like, I'll do a video on that at another time. Again, configs, don't mess around there. BIOS files, that's where your BIOS files go. As you can see, there's some in here because we're actually on the arcade's system. And then ROMs. So in here are all the ROM files. If we go down to the SNES, there's those two that we put in there. So it's pretty easy at this point. You should have an idea of what we want to do. Go to the whatever folder you want to put your ROMs in, whatever appropriate folder for the game. So like we went to the SNES folder for Super NES games. And then I'm just going to open up my drive with my games on it. And here we go. Right on there. Going to here, my games. Let me pull that over. Sorry about, let's try to make this as neat as possible. Okay, so here we go. And we'll grab, I don't know, Adventures of Batman, Addams Family, Alien, just like that. So once you've transferred over all the games that you want, we're just going to do the exact same thing we did last time. We're going to hit that start button and quit. So let me go over to the arcade and we'll do that process one more time. All right, so as you can see here, we still only have our 2 games. So we want to hit that start, go down to quit, restart emulation station, yes. I don't know why it asks you every time if you want to restart the emulation station, but for some reason it wants to make sure you want to do this. Yes. All right. So now if we scroll over and go to the Super Nintendo, we have the games that we just put on. There we go. Batman, Aliens, and Addams Family. All right. So that there is, I would say, pretty much the easiest method of transferring over, but there is one more, and it does involve downloading a program to help you do it. So again, we'll go back to the PC. I'll show you how to do this. Okay, one thought before we go over the PC, there is a piece of information you might need first. So let me show you how to get that. What we're going to need to grab is our IP address. So we want to go over to the RetroPie config menu and then just scroll down to the bottom where it says IP address. I'm going to click on that. You can give it a second. It's going to pop up with the window and it's going to show us a whole bunch of stuff. But at the very bottom line, the very first set of numbers there are your IP address. Generally, your IP address will start with 192.168.1 and then another number. But that's not always necessarily true. So that's where it is. Write that down if you need to, because you might need it on the next part, but generally you don't. Okay, so let me switch over the computer and I'll show you where we go from here. Okay, so like I said, for this method, what we're going to need is a program, and that program is called WinSCP. Now, if you do a simple Google search, it should show up for you right away. So let me get a window here, and voila. So just Google WinSCP, enter, and it'll be the first one, and you can just click directly on download. Come in here, grab what you need, the download that's for you, and install it. I have it installed, so I'm not going to go through the whole process. I hope y'all know how to install a program. But yeah, just follow the process, and then once it is installed, you can open it up, and it'll look like this. Now, on yours, there'll be nothing over on this side at first. And this is all my games is already opened because it's how I transfer stuff a lot of the time. But that's beside the point. What we want to do is that IP address that we wrote down, we're going to want to put it right in here. So let me throw mine in. All right. Then you want your username and password. With your RetroPie, your username should be Pi, and your password should be Raspberry. And then go down to login. And voila. Now you might get a pop-up window the first time. Just say okay, and then you'll see this. So now we are actually in this side of the computer is arcade. This side of the computer is this side is my computer. This side is your arcade. That got a little confusing. I apologize. So where we want to go is we want to find RetroPie file right there. Double click it, and we're going to see those familiar files that we've seen before, BIOS and ROMs, which are the ones we want to kind of concentrate on. So now we're going to go into the ROMs file and pick your appropriate folder again. So we'll stick with the Super Nintendo. And then I already have it open, but let me kind of show you here. So normally it'll be on your C drive like this. And you would go from here, you'd back out and go to the appropriate folder that you want to go to. Now, mine is on a different drive. So we're going to switch to the drive, which is right up here in the top left corner. Switch to that drive. And then I'm going to go to my Nintendo folder like it's already open because I was just there. And then you just simply drag and drop what you want. Now, with this, if you drag one thing, and then you drag another thing afterwards, it's going to do it in queue. If you grab a bunch of stuff, so let's grab, I don't know, these three here. Adventures of Yogi Bear, Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle, and Arrow Fighters. All right, we'll just grab them, drag them over, hit OK, and just give it a second for it to do what it needs to do and transfer them over. Now, I have all my ROMs on an older actual spinning hard drive, so it will take a second for it to spin up and transfer. There you go, through the network. It's just an old hard drive. It takes a little bit of time, but you know what? It still works at the end of the day. All right, so now we have everything transferred over. So let's switch back over to the arcade, and we'll do the whole restart thing one more time, and our game should be there. So bear with me here. All right, back on the arcade, as you can see, we only have the games that we've already put on. So we're going to do the whole hit the start button, down to quit, and restart emulation station. And once we do that, it'll read all the games there, and bingo, bango, bongo, we are good to go. All right, let's scroll over, and there we go. All of our games are in here. So now we have a bunch of games. Yes, this does have a picture because I've had this game on here before, and it remembers, and the file of the picture is still on the arcade. But you're probably thinking, well, how am I going to do that? Well, no worries. Let me show you guys here before we end the video how to get some of your pictures on. Now, if you've just put over one or two games that you've added, let's say you have some ROMs on, but you're adding some, you can do it individually. But first, I'm going to show you how to do everything. So you can add all of your ROMs. And then what you want to do is, not hit that button, go out and hit your start button and go to the very top here where it says scraper. And then use screen scraper. And then you want to go down to scrape now. Now in here, I usually only do missing images, but you can do all games and it'll update stuff. But because my stuff doesn't have any images and I don't want it to go through all the arcade stuff that already has images, we're going to skip that. You can come down here and you can pick what you want it to scrape. So we're going to take off arcades and ports. We only want the Super Nintendo. Then we go back, and user decides on conflicts. You want to turn this off, because anytime it has more than one picture or there's more than one variant of the game, it's going to want you to choose which one you would prefer. It's smart enough to do it itself, so just let it do it itself. And hit start. We'll give it a second, and it's going to go through and run all the stuff on that we needed to add on. Now, like I said, these are the three methods. The first USB method you can do on RetroPie, but I've had problems with it on RetroBat. You have to actually have a keyboard, and there's a different, or not RetroBat, sorry, my apologies. Recall box and Batacera. Yes, Batacera, you need a keyboard to transfer stuff from the USB onto the arcade. And Recall box, I forget. But the internet method that I showed you, using it over over your network. Okay, there we go. We got them all done here. Using it over your network, you can do it with all three: Recalbox, Batacera, and RetroPie. You can do it by either A, putting in the name, so RetroPie Batacera with // before it, or you can put in // and the IP that you got from your arcade, and that should allow you to do it the same way. That's about it for this video. I hope you all got something and it was useful. If there's any questions, please feel free to leave them down below. If there's anything else you might want me to do a video on, please let me know as well. I am working on some other stuff as well that hopefully will come out soon. But on that note, I hope you enjoyed, and good day, eh?